Hi, I'm Ailbhe McDonagh. In this video, we are going to be looking at double stops on the cello. So what are double stops? When we play two strings together on the cello, that's called a double stop. Often we use it as the umbrella term for everything when we play 2 strings, 3 strings or 4 strings. But you can play an awful lot of tunes with accompaniment together when you're playing double stops, and it can sound very rich and full. So how do we approach this? When we want to play 2 strings together, we want to have the sort of balance where we're thinking 50-50 weight on each string. So let me get this ready. I'm going to try and get a little bit of balance here. Give it a little bit of left and right here so that we're wobbling, and then you get onto a nice comfortable starting point. So sometimes it's helpful to think about a string in the middle, an imaginary string in the middle of the 2 strings here. So I'm on the D and the G string, but imagine there's a little string in the middle of that, and imagine we're playing that. So that's often helpful to get our weight balance really comfortable. So with double stops, we're always thinking about that 50-50 weight balance, unless we want one string or another string to come out more in the balance. So you will see for a lot of exams, people do something called broken sixths or broken thirds. So they're talking about the interval that you're playing there. So for example, if we played a C major broken sixths, it's sort of a preparatory for learning how to play double stops. So have a look at this. So see what I did there? I played 2 notes, a sixth apart, the E and the C. And the first 2 were slurred with a string crossing, so it's an anti-clockwise circle. And here I come back down in a clockwise circle and then play both of them together at the exact same time. Okay? So this is a really nice exercise to plan for this. How do we approach the double stop? So new string, circle, anti-clockwise again. Very important to shift nice and cleanly. Now we're just going over to the D string and the A. So a lot of things going on there. So first of all, here we're training our string crossing and how to get back just the angle to play 2 strings together. So I would start off and I would just play the string crossing on its own with no left hand. Often where I forget to get back to the double stop is the circle. So have a look at this circle here, anti-clockwise in the bow, and then back down again. Now we're going across to the G and the D string. So look, just hold on to the G and play that one. So often when we're playing a double stop piece, we have a split second where we can hang on to one of them a little longer so that we can sound a little bit more legato in our double stop playing. There is a danger when it's double stops that it all sounds quite full and too thick for the texture. Another thing to think about is when you shift with double stops. Up, down. So even though the bow is playing, keep the bow going, really release the left hand. When we don't think about our shifts in double stops, it becomes very tense in the hand, because now we're not just holding down 1 string at a time, but we're holding down 2. So you can imagine that's more that's happening with the left hand, and obviously we need to be quite strong for double stops. So a great thing to think about as you approach double stops is that we can't practice them for too long without taking a break. So you'll find that if you do, your hands get quite sore and you'll have to give them a rest. Great to do some good stretching of the hand afterwards. Anything you can do against a wall, just really giving your hand a good stretch, because this is kind of like going to the gym for the hand. Now let's think about a few pieces. So I love the book Double Stops for Cello by Mooney. It's a lovely way to approach double stops and see how all these pieces can be played and how you can really make it sound legato and luscious as you go through it. So here's Three Blind Mice. Now you can hear that the tune is actually on the bottom here, isn't it? And because the open A string is naturally brighter, you probably heard there that my A string came out much more than the tune. So of course we want to hear the tune more. So how do we achieve that? I'd imagine play maybe 70% weight on the D string. So let's try that. So what I do is really focus on the tune myself. So here I am. Then here, C, back to the D string. So I'm literally balancing my weight a little bit lower in the level of the elbow and everything so that I'm barely playing the A string. So you can play around with that. Then suddenly it goes to... So all of that, the tune, is on the A string. So we don't really have much to do because naturally the A string comes out more. But maybe we'll still have a little more balance to the A string. Let me try that. So that would be something I have to record to see, am I really balancing more weight to the A string for that tune? And then at the very end, the tune reverts back to the lower side of the two notes. So there again, I need to balance much more weight, maybe 70% down to the D string, so that that open A doesn't overpower the sound. Now we'll have a look at Danny Boy, a very famous Irish tune. And here it's very, very legato, and we don't want anything to interrupt the tune that we know. So we're always thinking about balance between the two notes. So here we are. So even that in itself. What I'd like to know about my string crossings is, what am I actually doing? What circles do I have in the bow hand? So, funnily enough, it's just an anti-clockwise circle for the first one, anti-clockwise, so we just went that direction, and then here we did another anti-clockwise circle, so we only have to think one direction here for it to be truly legato, but you do need to know which circle it is, particularly in double stops. So let's try it again. That was a bit smoother than my first attempt. Weight onto the D string. So you can see I'm trying to make sure that the tune on the top comes out much more than the lower notes, even though the lower notes are the harmony. Let's keep going. So a lot going on in just that little phrase. So here we have even the release of your fourth finger to the double stop there, look. Very important, because if you let it go early, then the G string comes in too soon. If you let it go too late, then we don't hear the harmony at the same time. So many different things happening here. Let's look at our circle. It's very slight, but it's still an anti-clockwise circle. So here we are. Very nice vibrato on double stops. So again there, we're now doing a substitution shift while we're also thinking about the balance of the bow. Circle, circle, and so this is a 3-note stop. So have a look at this. We're going down to the C string and we're still going in an anti-clockwise circle. It's great. We've very little to think about. Anti-clockwise. So here we've had a 5th. We really need to think about the balance of the hand on that A. Now technically you should be holding that D through that C, which is quite a challenge from the hand to come from a bar up to our 4th finger, but it can be done with a little bit of practice. So you can see the more intense the harmonies and the melodies and the double stopping in a piece, the more we really have to get in and clinical, thinking about our smooth bow circles that we talked about in our cello basics videos. And we always want to make sure that it sounds free and full, that the left hand is never getting in the way because it is a little more tense than it is usually holding down the 2 strings. Double stops can be absolutely beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments below.